President of Operations and Administration at the Muslim Public Affairs Council and works closely with our policy team on countering hate crimes and that impact our community. Please give a warm welcome to Sister Rebecca Husaini.
Thank you so much, everybody. I want to welcome you to this conversation. For those of you that were here in March, you might hear a few things that are familiar, but I think it's really good to have a refresher, especially as things have progressed over the past 6 months. Today we want to talk about hate crime. And as we all know, this is a very pervasive issue, not only locally, but also across the U.S. And around the world, for that matter. But really, in order to understand how we can work to counter it, I want to do a little bit of a deep dive into some of the policy issues and the root causes of this hate, so that we can understand how we can work together as a community to counter it. What does it take to counter this pervasive issue that's impacting us? I want to point out just a little bit of the history that has happened over the past several years. We all know, right after October 7th, hate crimes reached unprecedented levels, and they're continuing to rise. CARE released a civil rights report in 2024, which noted a 56% rise in anti-Muslim incidents in 2023. We all know also that that number is not only outdated, but also underreported, as for various reasons, our hate crimes aren't being reported to authorities. And so these statistics don't show the full picture of what is really happening within our communities. We also heard from then Assistant LAPD Deputy Blake Chow. He reported at the time, right after, it was early 2024, that there was at that point a 633% increase in anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab, and anti-Muslim hate crimes in LA County. And this was only through the period between October 6th to November 2023. So you can only imagine what has transpired since that time. Part of the problem with it is the structure on the federal structure for reporting hate crimes. It's not mandatory for law enforcement agencies to report hate crimes to the FBI's FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting Program. It is completely voluntary, and so that in itself is it definitely does not present the full picture. So not only are not all hate crimes reported or hate incidents, the number of the transmittal of that information to the federal government, these people set the policies, also creates a very large gap. So in 2021, which these are outdated numbers, of course, so again, you can imagine what it's like now, but 65% of law enforcement agencies did not report the hate crimes to the FBI. And so because of this, they're not necessarily seeing the full picture on what it is we need to address. And they're instead focusing on other areas. Here are some of the data gaps that have been experienced over the past several years. So there are some agencies that reported 0 hate crime incidents in their region, and then they also did not submit any hate crime data to the FBI. And I went into some of the challenges in reporting. We all know, that part of the problem is the fact that we've been looked at, we haven't been taken seriously. Not only that, we actually have been looked at as, there's been a lot of fear and mistrust that has built over the years. And so because of that, why would we report to everyone? I want to try to get you to understand what the benefit is of reporting this, so that we can educate our communities and actually show a full picture to the policymakers that this is a really important issue that they shouldn't just brush aside. And all in all, the policy, since they're not seeing this as a true, issue because the data isn't there. It hampers the development of effective policies. They also reduce the resources that they put towards countering it because they're not seeing the data there. So at the end of the day, the data is what drives it. I just wanted to show you a quick comparison of the federal versus the local prosecution rate. So on the, is that your left? It shows the total number of hate crimes reported to the FBI. And this is of the numbers that were reported to the FBI. And then at the federal level, you could see the prosecution level was very low compared to what was actually reported. And on the right, it shows the federal versus local prosecution rates only in California. So the blue would be the total hate crimes referred to the DOJ for prosecution. The gray would be the cases filed, and the black is the actual prosecuted hate crime. So it's a much smaller number than what is actually referred to in California and also at the federal level. So that also shows the lack of importance, the federal government and local prosecution actually taking this issue seriously. So I want to kind of go over the difference between a hate crime and a hate incident because I know that there's a specific definition for these, and this really makes a difference on how hate crimes and hate incidents are investigated. So a hate crime is any criminal act or attempted criminal act directed against a person based on the victim's actual or perceived race, nationality, religion, gender, disability, or sexual orientation. Some examples of hate crimes: where there's physical injury, where there's a threat of violence, any injury that, even if it's a slight injury, or anything that results in property damage, that they would categorize as a potential hate crime. Hate incident is a little bit different. It's an act directed against a person based on their actual or perceived race, nationality, religion, gender, disability, or sexual orientation. The difference between a hate incident and a hate crime is that a hate incident isn't necessarily is not necessarily a criminal act. It's a non-criminal act. So such things as hate messages, hate graffiti, property damage, that's kind of broad and not directed towards any specific group, making derogatory comments, circulating offensive materials, anything that does not threaten physical violence, because then that would fall into the hate crime category. Posting hate materials that do not result in property damage, such as caricatures and so on. So it's important to really understand the differences between hate crimes and hate incidents, simply so that when you go to report them, you can understand it and help them, the law enforcement officials or whoever you report it to, understand the severity of the crime so that they can accurately capture the data. So basically, the key difference between a hate crime and a hate incident is whether or not a law has been broken. We kind of went over this. So another issue that creates a barrier for effective enforcement on hate crimes, not only the underreporting, but there's a lack of standardized reporting mechanisms. So they're all different all across the board in different jurisdictions, and also insufficient training for law enforcement on hate crimes. And then, of course, the gaps that we discussed in the FBI data collection. So this really emphasizes why it's important for stronger federal oversight, and MPAC has done a little bit of a deep dive. We have various reports out there on some of our recommendations on how we can actually, at the policy level, try to improve this process, and that way we can see our community. Our recommendations would be to mandate participation in FBI's uniform crime reporting system. Like I said before, it's not mandatory. It's completely voluntary. They don't have to put it into the FBI uniform crime reporting program. Conduct comprehensive training of law enforcement agencies. One of the gaps that I mentioned was the fact that there's insufficient training on law enforcement. I can't tell you how many times I hear what looks to me, when a community member comes to me, what looks to me as if, definitely there is, at least, at the very least, a hate incident that happened. And, seemingly, not all times, but seemingly it's kind of brushed aside as, oh, we can't report that as a hate crime or hate incident, investigate it that way. When, they could pull security cameras in the area or do a little bit more to actually make sure they get down to the bottom of the issue and really try to find results and find justice. We also recommend that they conduct a comprehensive study on federal and state hate crime reporting tools. So right now they're pretty insufficient, and so a study needs to be done on what is the best method of the intake so that they can effectively address it. Also conducted study on specific intent requirements and impact on hate crimes prosecution. Right now, there's language that makes they basically draw attention to what specific intent is, and so that can also muddy the investigation as to what the specific intent is. And also, we suggest they modify the prosecutorial certification of the Attorney General and hate crime statutes. And I know that's kind of getting in the weeds on some of the recommendations that can be done at the policy level. But all this to say that, all in all, they need to focus on this issue. And there's many gaps that currently exist that they have community organizations such as MPAC and others that have given them the insights on what can be done to make them more effective. And so, more needs to be done in that area. I'm going to pause there, see if anyone has any questions directly related to what I just presented. I'm going to have another Q&A at the end, but I know that was a lot of heavy policy related content, and I just want to see if anyone has any immediate questions. No? Okay, I'm going to move on. So as I mentioned before, there really are, we really need to understand what some of the root causes of Islamophobia is. Like, what are the drivers of it? And really, at the end of the day, our U.S. national security policies, and we've all seen this in everything that's happened over the past 2 decades, not let alone the past 2 years, but really, at the end of the day, our national security policies of the United States project that America is at war with Islam. As we can see here, this is the DNI website, the Director of National Intelligence website. And it's changed a little bit since we first created this, but it's really only changed the graphic design itself. It hasn't really changed the content on it. And as you can see, this projects that America is at war with Islam. The vast majority of groups that they have designated as foreign terrorist organizations happen to be Muslim. And as you can see, with some of the really problematic way they're presenting the Shahada and just Arabic in general makes it seem as if it's scary and should be looked at as the bad guy. So we see that as a problem, not to mention the media that fuels it. I know that the past 2 years, it's kind of hard to keep up with the amount of that has come from the media and misrepresentation of what the true problem is. So as we all know, we've all experienced this, the repercussions of these policies. And this, this really was prevalent after 9/11, and it still continues to this day. We're on watch lists. There's community surveillance. We're harassed at airports. There's discrimination in workplace and schools, freezing and seizure of and on and the travel bans they can use. So this is just one way that they're able to implement some of these restrictive surveillance programs on our community. Another issue that is a problem, I kind of mentioned the media, but there's also very well-funded network of misinformation experts, such as Fear Inc., that's putting putting all the Islamophobic messaging online and creating an environment of fear and feeling Islamophobia. And these are very well-funded networks. We've all seen some of the language all over social media. It's another part of the problem, but a big part of the problem because they're very well-funded. So as I recommended, or as I mentioned earlier, we need to build a better federal response. So improve federal hate crime data collection, enhance training, increase the victim support resources. I'm going to get into a little bit later what some of the local victim support resources are, and then also strengthen community partnerships because as we all know, as I'm sure other communities have seen, now they're kind of seeing where they're using language that has been historically directed towards Muslims, and they're trying to also do the same with other communities as well. So we need to strengthen our community coalitions. And a big part of this is what we can do as a community. This kind of goes into some of the policy, the recommendations on the policy level, but we all play a part. As a community, it's really important for us to ensure that we're educating those around us, that really, at the end of the day, even if it's not going to present an immediate solution, reporting is important so that they have the data, because if they don't have the data, they're not going to take us seriously. And so I just want to emphasize the need for reporting, and then I'm going to get into some of the ways in which you can report so that even if they're not immediately solving your issue, at least they have the data and can't ignore us. Like I said, about half of all hate crimes go unreported. And also hate crimes are often misclassified, and they're also not properly documented, such as the example I gave earlier. And then extremists use violence to resist progress for communities of color. So that's another issue as well. We need a national strategy, but we also need community engagement on this issue so that we can be heard. And this is just a fun little presentation, really, on really trying to visualize the gap. So when they don't have that full picture with the data, it's kind of unclear. They're also able to dismiss it a little more. And then once we increase the data, increase engagement with policymakers, then we can, and have more community outreach, then really they can start to see a full picture, and we can continue to present that full picture to them. And historically, there have been issues that have been important, the civil rights era and other movements historically that have really led to policy change. And so I just wanted to illustrate with this slide how it works. It works even though sometimes you feel as if it's only you, but having that sustained engagement and being a part of that movement really helps drive change. So this timeline really just shows the evolution of US hate crime legislation and how it's really important that we need to increase the reporting so that we can be a driver of change. I'll just skip that one. So now that everyone understands what a hate crime versus a hate incident is, kind of why it's important that we continue to report, continue to engage our policymakers on this issue that is only increasing. There's many different ways you can report a hate crime or hate incident. You can report it directly to the FBI online at tips.fbi.gov or call them. And then, of course, if it is an immediate emergency where you know there's a threat to your life or someone else's life, call 911. You could also file a police report with LAPD directly. There's a quick with some hate crime reporting, not all, but some you could file it online. I can share these these websites afterwards so that you can have them if you ever need them. And then there's also, I work with the Los Angeles County of Human Relations. They've implemented a 211 reporting hotline, which is basically, it's not law enforcement, but it's a way not only to capture that data, but it's also a way where you can get resources, whether that be mental health or they can refer you to legal resources and so on and so forth. And so if you dial 211, they can take that report and they don't necessarily have like an emergency response, but they're able to direct you to places in which you can get resources to help you in that moment. And also the data is captured, which to me is one of the things I wanted to emphasize with this presentation is the capturing of data, so that they have that data and they can't say that it isn't there, and so that it's not dismissed. So I ask all of you to, help educate our community. I give these presentations every once in a while to our community, but there's only so many people that hear it. I would ask for you to share this with your friends, this information, and your family. And then if they have any questions, or if you have further questions, you can always reach me at MPAC. I'm happy to answer any questions at any time about any of it. And then also help us build coalitions with other like-minded organizations that can help amplify our message as well. And that's it. I wanted to thank you. And if anyone has any questions, I'm going to open the floor up now for questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay. What happens if something happened to you, but it's not recent and you're reporting it a year or two later?
This happened to me. Thank you. This actually did happen to me very recently. I had someone contact me that it hadn't happened immediately. I went online and I reported it on her behalf because she asked me to. She didn't need the resources, obviously, at that time. It had been a little bit since it had happened, but at least the data capture was there. And so as long as you have a general idea, of course, like if you're filing a police report, you're going to need specific information. Where was it? When was it? What did it look like? But it's important, especially if you're calling like 211, and I'm going to point you over to the table over there that has some brochures that you can take with you so that you can share them, and you can also look through them, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. But at least then the data capture is there that this did happen, and it helps create that change that I spoke about.
Or comments?
Actually, it was happened to me last summer. I was walking on a street and somebody stopped her car. He says, "Why you here? Why you not go your country? This is not your country." So this situation, what should I do? Thank you.
Very good question. That is something I hear constantly. The same story. It's really sad, and I'm really sorry that you were confronted with that sort of hate. It doesn't belong in any democratic society. Anyone that tries to create we should all try to create a warm and welcoming environment for all of us. I would say I would still call 211 and let them know an approximate date. Tell them that you were encouraged to report this regardless, so that they can have the data, but that you don't necessarily have all the details, and that because of that sources. But I want to invite you to do experience it.
Maybe she listen.
Whenever I've tried to contact LA to or augment a attention to a report, they always tell me that in in being able to do anything about it or investigate it properly, they really need not only what happened, they look like, and so on and so forth. The time between the time it happens and the time it reports, the more difficulty they have in investigating it. So more than likely, if you call LAPD, they probably will not say it's too late. That's why I'm saying call 211, which is not law enforcement. They're just a reporting agency that can help provide you mental health resources or direct you to legal, or even contact us to help you. But the most important piece of contacting 211 is that data collection. So you could say, this did happen. This is the approximate date it happened. And I understand you can't really do anything to like solve it now, but I want you to have it so that you can include it in your data. That's what I would do.
Okay, I have a question. What happens if you have a child and this someone makes a hate crime or a hate incident towards your child at school? What's the best? Yeah, at school.
That's a really good question. So the school boards are responsible for that. Also, depending on, I would still report it to 211. Potentially depending on what it looks like, even LAPD. But first and foremost, the administration has a duty to, have a safe and productive learning environment for all their students, and make sure all their students are seen and heard. So I would go to the administration of the school, and then of course I always invite you to contact MPAC, because we can always help you. We have a First Amendment Center that we launched, where we're trying to, not only with universities, but at the K through 12 level, to really try to change policies and make sure that the First Amendment rights of students just to be present are there. Not only protecting them when they may be the target of hate or discrimination, but also ensuring that their curriculum is fair and not biased, and does not erase the voices of any of their students. So I would say, if you're experiencing that, I also welcome you to contact us, because we can support with our First Amendment Center.
The last statement you made, because I'm historically, this is America, so I know thoroughly America. Okay, like way back. Okay, and I know the last three sentences you just said, is not working here. It's not happening but for the citizens. Okay, it's only picked by okay, it goes by white, 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 white. That's it. And then other people, they just listen to you. The other ones they just ignore. Here you go.
So you're saying, what can we do? And I get that. It is a problem, and it has historically always been a problem. But if we just give in and allow them to keep doing it without saying anything, then we give them the power. So our job as a community and as organizations that work to protect the community is to make sure your voices are heard. And even if it takes a year, 2 years, 20 years, 30 years, we need to create a future for our children that looks better than what they historically have been at. So that's why, in fact, we launched the Center for First Amendment. If we're talking about K through 12 and universities discrimination, is so that we can make those policies better. And I do agree with you. Historically, it has been bad. If you're interested in learning more about our First Amendment Center, we also have a brochure on that over there.
I have another question for anyone who has college age kids. So if you have a college age kid and let's say they're Muslim and they were a victim of a hate crime, whether just on campus or they were protesting for Gaza or they're part of the encampments, what is the responsibility of the university to protect their rights? And what would you do if that happened to your child?
I know it's just going to sound like I'm plugging MPAC, but I would call MPAC because we have a department focused on this. It's the university's responsibility to ensure a safe, productive learning environment for all their students. And so, of course, we've seen this a lot over the past 2 years, and that's literally why we launched the First Amendment Center. So I would say you need to speak up. Just don't let it happen. report the incident, whatever it may look like. And then if you need further support, always feel free to reach out to us for that. For K through 12 university, whatever it may be, really. We want to make sure that everyone can, is seen and heard and lives as in a safe environment.
I've been on many protests. It's like three layers on it. It's one side. I'm going backwards. Okay. These people are really aggressive. They're riding around in a big trailer. It looks like a trailer truck, and they're trying to push the other people into doing, what? Yeah, that's why are you talking so nice? you and they're like, they're wrong, son. This is evil. They're doing like that, right? But they're pushing them more. That's all you're gonna do. You know what I mean? They beckon them on to, but they want them to do violence.
You're talking about instigators,
Yeah, they are in the protest. They're on the sidelines. So now there's another group. They're trying to talk them down. Like what I do, I try to when I'm there, I talk to them. You know what I mean? Because I know how to, their language. You know what I mean? So to speak, I'm used to it. So I won't disrespect them when I'm doing it because they don't like the disrespect part. They're really aggressive like people. Okay, so if you're respecting them, they're talking with you. But if you other ones, shut up, you got in trouble. But those people, they're dangerous like people. Okay. But anyway, um, if someone that you know that can talk with them, they'll postpone all that crazy stuff because they want to be effective too. You know what I mean? Now you have to, so you're gonna have some people inside that's acting peaceful. They don't know which way to go, and they're gonna get angry. Okay, at the other people talking. So it's like you got people fighting against each other right in the protests. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say our neighborhoods are just like that. You get the instigator, you know what I mean, just like that, and then they got the one that they just want to fight, you know. Um, and but I say a solution to that is that your next door neighbor, your immediate next door neighbor, especially if you live in an apartment, you talk with them, whether they like you think you like them or not, speak to them. It might take a year for them to say this hi, you know what I mean, but it's worth it. After a while, they're gonna have a situation one time, and they're gonna run in front of you, right in front of you, and they're gonna say, nobody else is around. I just to talk to you. That's you. You know what I mean? What did you see anything happening around my door? You know what I mean? Something like that. Anything can come up. You know what I mean? Or somebody their car was robbed. You know what I mean? Or something. They want to know about that. That's a reason for them to talk with you. That's their way. A neighbor. That's their way of saying, we need to talk right now. You know what I mean? But it'll be gradually, not all the way. At one time. I know there's experiences with neighbors. You know what I mean? So, okay. So I guess I talked enough.
Yeah, so I know that yours was more a comment on how we can build common ground between those that we don't necessarily see eye to eye before it gets to the point of violence. I also want to say I agree. First of all, I agree with you. That continued engagement from a position of strength and peace and justice and clear talking points. You may not see it the first time, but you keep engaging with them. It does help. I also want to say it's important when you are confronted with instigators that you may remain calm and not give into the impulse to go to violence, because not only is violence we don't condone violence. Islam does not condone violence, but also you're not you've lost that respect in that position of what's perceived as power to be able to get your point across. You're looked at then as the bad guy. So just, I would say resist that impulse. But yes, continue to engage with clear talking points, uh, with justice in mind, and eventually your message can get across. That's really the what's at the that's really what's at the heart of coalition building too. So is really engaging one another, finding shared values, and being able to come together on those shared values. And they may not be like immediately present. You know, you may have to talk to them a little bit before those shared values can come to the forefront. So I agree with you.
Anyone else? Have there been an increase in hate crimes towards Muslims recently?
Well, what we hear, of course, yes, because, you know, we're talking to community, we're hearing it from the community. The picture that's being painted at the statistics level is not, but we all know, and our messaging, we always emphasize this. It's not just our community that sees underreporting, so they're kind of used to they understand the underreporting, but I think that more work needs to be done to really get them to understand why our community is so unique in that way, because we've been at the forefront of this for multiple years. And like I said, the root causes of it come from our policies themselves. So yes, but it's not being backed up by reports. And so that's why I'm here to basically ask for you all to share with the community, reach out to MPAC, reach out to 211 if you feel comfortable. We can help guide you through that process if needed. But really, at the end of the day, the data is what's going to help us, show evidence. This is occurring. You can't ignore it.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Well, thank you very much, Sister Rebecca Husaini, for this very enlightening and powerful presentation. I'm sure that we all benefited from it. And please join us in our prayer hall right now for Doha prayer. Afterwards, we're going to have our Quran memorization class in this lecture hall with Dr. Amal Al-Husseini. We'll also have our sports day outside in the basketball court. So please join us. And next Sunday is Open Mosque Day. So please come back next Sunday and join us. We'll start with Parent Circle at 10:30, and we'll have a special Sunday program with the Interfaith program for Open Mosque Day, and we'll have about ICSC after Doha prayer and also Introduction to Islam. So please join us, bring your neighbors, families, friends, and thank you so much again. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.